One company finding that much worth of silver on a shipwreck off the coast of Ireland. You were just taking a look at it. Carrie Sanders joins us now from a secret location in the UK with more. Hi, Carrie.
Hey there, I can't tell you where I am because there's so much silver here, but I'm inside the vault, and this is what $36 million worth of silver looks like. It's part of 110 tons, which when you collect it all together is worth $77 million. So this is quite a find. It was found by Odyssey Marine Exploration out of Tampa. About 10 years ago, their archaeologists went out and said, let's see if we can find the Garasopa. Now, that's a ship that in 1941 was coming from India, making its way to Great Britain with this silver on board. This was to fund the war effort. Well, a U-boat saw it, sank the ship, and the silver went down. Not just down to the bottom, but down 3+ miles, which is actually deeper than the Titanic. So getting at it, not easy. But the archaeologists located it, and then 2 years ago sent out an ROV. That's a remotely operated vehicle. And they started looking down there, and they found some of the silver. Here's one of the pieces of silver all shined up. You can see here it's actually kind of tarnished because it's been down there for 72 years. Well, just over the weekend, they brought up the final 62 tons of silver, and the plan is that some of this will, well, all of it will get melted down, but Odyssey worked out a deal with the British government. So they're almost like the contractors. They'll be paid for pulling up all of this silver, and then they get an 80-20 split. 80% goes to Odyssey, 20% goes to the British government. So not a bad deal for really finding a needle in a haystack. One of the hardest things was when they got to the wreck to actually find the silver. All of this silver right here, it was inside one of the holds, which was the mail room. And they had to bring the ROV down, poke around down there, find the silver, and then with a claw, pick one up, pick up a couple at a time, and then bring it all to the surface. And so a success in treasure hunting, which, if you know, not always successful, Kelly.
Yes, well, I think a new hunt is underway to figure out where you are. Carrie, thanks very much for that. In fact, Mark Gordon, the President and Chief Operating Officer of Odyssey Marine Exploration, joins us now at Post 9. Mark, welcome.
It's great being here with you guys.
So let me get this straight. You actually have made a business out of finding sunken treasure.
Yeah, correct. Publicly traded company on the NASDAQ. This is what we do. This and deep sea minerals now.
Wow. So how much of this particular exploration is accounts for your business, and how expensive is it, how risky is it, and how are you able to turn this into a steady business?
Well, it's obviously a high-risk venture. We invest millions of dollars on the front end before we know if we're going to have a success. But this silver will be monetized. It'll generate probably about $30 million in cash, and we'll use that to invest in the next project after we split with our partners, the British government.
Well, but it still is a case where there are always legends, there's always stories, but to be able to turn, this is like the biggest, I think, discovery, right, in terms of dollar amount that one of these explorations has turned up.
Yeah, this is the heaviest amount of cargo, precious cargo, ever recovered from the deepest depth, almost 15,000 feet underwater, 3 miles underwater. But yeah, no, these are out there, and this is our 4th or 5th success. This is what we do.
Is this all collected with an ROV? Is it too deep to dive yourself?
Exactly right. I worked my way through college as a diver, but we're at the point now we're working so deep we can't put people down. So we're using these remotely operated vehicles, which are unmanned submarines.
What's insurance like?
Insurance for our operations?
Yeah,
quite expensive, yeah. We're probably one of the few publicly traded companies that has risk of piracy on the high sea as a disclosure.
You mentioned you're a public company. I'm curious, what is the construct by which I would want to buy your shares? How am I going to get a return of capital at some point if you continue to be successful, or do I judge you by your earnings, which I would assume can be awfully lumpy, to say the least?
Yeah, no, they're episodic, I think, but I think people look at the sum of the parts, and we have a portfolio of these projects that will continue to yield these returns, and we do imagine that at some point there might be just a straight return of capital, but right now people are just getting capital appreciation on the share price.
You mentioned the silver is going to be monetized. Do you wait for silver prices to climb back up? You must watch that price like a hawk.
We do. We put a hedge in just to be safe, but I was gratified to see silver up about 4% this morning. It's going in the right direction.
Yeah, this is a different kind of warehousing. How much do you pay attention to what's going on there? A lot of regulatory focus on that issue.
Yeah, no question. And especially since we're in partnership with the government, and a whole other layer of audit. involved there. So we've got great controls, and everything's going to go just fine.
An 80-20 split. When it happens that your archaeologists, do they think they find something, they report it to the British government or whoever the authority is that governs those waters? I mean, what happens if you find something off the coast of China on those disputed islands?
Well, it's in this case, it's who owns the cargo. So the British government had paid the war risk insurance in 1941 when the ship was lost. So they're the rightful owner of the cargo. So ahead of the expedition, we made a deal, and now it's an 80-20 split.
How much of this kind of stuff is still out there? I mean, vintage World War II sunken treasure.
Lots. You know, the United Nations estimates 3 million shipwrecks in the ocean, which sounds like a staggering number, but when you consider we have found wrecks that predate Christ, so they've been sinking for thousands of years. Until the mid-20th century, this was the only way to transport wealth. It converts to billions of dollars lying on the seafloor.
You dive yourself?
I do.
Do you ever go on one of these active?
Yeah, I've been out. I was actually out when we found this ship last year and did the original reconnaissance dives. I just don't get wet anymore.
You got to take us out on one of these.
Different kind of suit.
Yeah, exactly. That is fascinating. Definitely a little different from sitting behind a desk most of the day. Mark Gordon of Odyssey, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks.